Yep.
Thank you, councillors. Thank you. Welcome to you all. I am required to tell those in the public gallery that the meeting is digitally recorded and made publicly available through the council's website. Digital recordings are conducted in accordance with Regulation 33 of the Local Government Regulations or the council's digital recording policy. And we do that so that we have a record and it's live streamed to YouTube for participation for folks that are at home. So I'll start with the acknowledgement of country. Central Coast Council acknowledges and pays respects to the traditional owners of Rotorua, Tasmania, the Palawa people. We acknowledge the Punalapana tribe of this northern country, and in doing so, we celebrate one of the world's oldest continuing cultures. And the prayer, may the words of our lips and the meditations of our hearts be always acceptable in thy sight, O Lord. Welcome everybody. We have apologies from Councillor Lehman. Other than that, all councillors in attendance. And of course, we're in Penrith, which is fabulous, and we're so pleased to be here. And it is our intent to be here at least once a year, following a bit of encouragement from Councillor Hiskett last year. It does take some preparation for us to move locations with our audio and our visual requirements, but we are pleased to be here and pleased to see all of you. And I'll shortly talk to you about public question time, which will be at 6:40. If the meeting should, if our general business should cease before 6:40, we will then move into an area of public question time, and the council provides 30 minutes for public questions. You should find some information on the seat or the seat there beside you in relation to how we manage public question time, and I'll give you a briefing again of that at the time. But once we have finished our public question session and the meeting is then closed to the public, we will ask you to leave so we can conduct our business, which is conducted in closed council. But we can talk about that again in a moment. So back to the agenda, councillors. Item 1.1, confirmation of the minutes of the council. Could I have somebody move that the minutes of 23rd of February and the special meeting of the 6th of March be confirmed? Councillor Dipro, seconded. Councillor Varney. Any discussion? No. All those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Against, declared carried. Item 2.1, councillor workshops. A list there of the workshops that have been conducted. Could I have somebody move that the officers' report be received? Councillor Hiskett, seconded. Councillor Beswick. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Mayor's communications, just to no, I'll put in the mayor's diary. Nothing there to report under 3.1. 3.2, a list there of the activities I've undertaken as the mayor and an event from the deputy mayor. And just to add these for the minutes, Councillor Dick Rose, who attended the Zonta Cradle Coast International Women's Day event on behalf of council also. Any other additions that I might have missed? No, there being none. Could I have somebody move that the mayor and deputy mayor and Councillor Dick Rose's reports be received, please? Councillor Smith, seconded. Councillor Wiley. Any discussion? No. All those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Against, declared carried. 3.3, declarations of interest. Anybody need to declare an interest for today's meeting? No, thank you. 4.1 is councillor reports. Any councillors wish to report on the committees to which they've been appointed? Councillor Dick Rose.
I attended the first City Coast Youth Leaders Council meeting. It was visible to see, you know, there was one student from Olsen Secondary College to the Penguin and 3 from Lycombe. It's good to see so many young enthused leaders of our community. So the next meeting to not be safe, Northwest Christian School will be in attendance also. So I really look forward. They're going to be up to the next year. But the enthusiasm was just that was really lovely to say.
Fabulous, right, thank you. Anything else? Councillor Heskett.
Thank you, Mayor. Attended the City Plan AGM where a new chairperson, Linda Thorne, was elected. Looking forward to leading a relatively new committee with two of the former committee members, Nick and Marstach, forward. Their numbers are starting to increase post-COVID as well, so things are starting to look a little bit more positive in that space, and we're looking forward to the years to come. I also attended the Penrith Certified committee meetings. They successfully ran the June State Carnival, and a huge congratulations should be given to all involved. It was a good event up there for the opening, and brought a lot of people to the region as well. So they also expressed some need for public tours in that region in the Surf Park. So they just wanted to make sure that was expressed to the councillors, and we have further discussion from the today.
Thank you, Councillor Heskett. Anybody else? Councillor Wiley.
I'd just like to mention on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, Central Coast Chamber of Commerce, that they're having their business expo next weekend, which is the 2nd of April. It's going to be shaping up to be a really great event, and it would be good to see as many members of the public there to support the event. We have got some great events actually coming up that weekend in the Central Coast. So the Chamber of Commerce Business Expo on the Sunday.
Excellent. Thank you. Anything further? Move to 5.1, leave of absence. There's no applications for consideration at this meeting. 6.1, deputations, no request for deputations. 7.1 is a petition received for a dual gate entrance to be installed in the small dog area at the Ulverston Showground off Leash Dog Park. A report there and the provision of the petition, and the suggested resolution is that the petition be received. Could I have somebody move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Carpenter, seconded Councillor Viney. Any discussion on receiving the petition? No, there being none. All those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Against? Declared it carried. 8.1 is councillors' questions without notice. Around the table, Councillor Beswick. Councillor Vine.
No,
Councillor Heskett. Councillor Dickros.
No.
Councillor Smith.
No, thank you, mate.
Councillor
No, thank you, Mayor.
Wiley. A minute there for a Wiley, Councillor,
No, thanks, Mayor.
and none from myself. Eight point two is councillors' questions on notice. No questions or notice have been received. Public question time, as I mentioned, is set for 6:40. The agenda always says 6:40 or as soon as possible thereafter. Perhaps tonight, as we have a short agenda, it might be 6:40 or as soon as practicable beforehand. Right. And that the information there in relation to two questions only being asked by each member of the public. 9.2 is public questions taken on notice. No public questions were taken on notice from the February meeting. Moving on to general management. 10.1 minutes and notes of committees of the council and other organisations. You've been provided with the copies of those minutes and notes. Could I have somebody move that they be received, please? Thank you, Councillor Heskett, seconded. Councillor Beswick. Any discussion or question on those minutes? No, there being none. All those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Against? Declared carried. 10.2 is the local government election of Local Government Association of Tasmania General Management Committee 2023 election. You have a background report there. We have had conversations about the nominations. The election timetable is listed in the agenda, and the suggested resolution is for you there on page 17. Do I have anybody move? What is it that you'd like to move?
Sorry. I'd like to nominate yourself there as the candidate for the General Management Committee. You would accept that nomination?
Thank you. Do I have a second, please? Councillor Dickros. I'm happy to accept that nomination for the population category of over 20,000. Is there any discussion, questions there? No. What do I do there, Sandra? We've got the resolution. Yeah, you go. All those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Declared carried. Well, it made me think for a minute, I didn't know when I was nominating myself for something. Thank you for that, good faith. 10.3 is the common seal, which you've been provided a copy of. Could I have somebody move that bid? The approved delegation of responsibilities be received, please. Thank you. Councillor Wiley, seconded. Councillor Wiley, any discussion? No, there being none. All those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Against? Declared carried. 10.4 contracts and agreement. We've been provided with a schedule of contracts and agreement. Could I have somebody move that it be received, please? Thank you, Councillor Smith, seconded. Councillor Hiskett. Any discussion or questions? There being none, all those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Against? Declared carried. 10.5 is correspondence addressed to the Mayor and councillors. A copy of that schedule has been provided to you. Could I have somebody move that it be received, please? Thank you, Councillor Beswick, seconded. Councillor Diprose. Any questions on that schedule of correspondence? No, there being none, all those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Against? Declared carried. 10.6 development application determinations. Again, schedule has been circulated to you all. Could I have somebody move that the schedule be received, please?
So move me.
Thank you, Councillor Carpenter, seconded. Councillor Viney, any questions?
No.
No. Put the motion. All those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Against? Declared carried. We're scooting through. 10.7 infrastructure service. Oh, there are no questions for. Thank you. 10.7 infrastructure services. So this is in relation to the petition received. There is a conclusion and a recommendation there. Could I have somebody move? Thank you, Councillor Beswick, seconded by Councillor Hiskett. Councillor Beswick, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, well, thanks, Mayor. Bronwyn Cook approached me after she put the petition in and explained to me the reasons for wanting to have a separation or a dual gate access on the small dog side of the park in the showground in Ulverstone. I've been there myself with our dog, and it is something that is probably thoroughly needed. And I'm pleased that the conclusion here is to also look at the dog training area, Dog Regional Sports Complex as well, so that both areas in our municipality, whether they're off lead and contained space, is going to have the dual gates. It just means that you've basically got an airlock and be much safer for the dog owners coming in and those leaving as well. So I thoroughly support this conclusion, and that it's recommended that we put in the capital budget for next year.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Hiskett.
Yes, but it's the one that also has come across my very well, which is constituents, so it's good to see the council's responses so far, and even clear indication of the people during the petition walkout. I think in relation to speaks about the dual gate entrance as well, I think the inclusion in relation to the open space recreation and the that area as well.
Fabulous. Thank you. Any other speakers? No, there being none. Councillor Beswick, do you wish to close?
So that's it. Thank you.
Fabulous. Great. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Against? Declared carried. 10.8 infrastructure services determination. You've been provided with a schedule of the determinations. Could I have somebody move that be received? Thank you, Councillor Hiskett. Seconded, Councillor Diprose. Any conversation? Questions? No? Great. There being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, aye. Against? Declared carried. Corporate services. 10.9 statutory determinations. Again, you've been provided with a schedule of statutory determinations. Could I have somebody move they be received? Councillor Smith, thank you. Councillor Wiley seconded. Any questions or discussion? No. There being none, put the motion. All those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Against. That are carried. See how efficient we are? So now the agenda tells me that it's time to close the meeting to the public, but of course we haven't done cabinet question time yet, so we're going to do that now. As you might see in the information there, any person can ask 2 questions. And obviously it's, it's a question and answer time. It's not a debating or backwards and forwards in time. It's a very structured way that's governed by the regulations. As you came in, you would have seen there were some clipboards there. We did ask that if you particularly wanted to put forward a question, that you grab one of those sheets and pop your name, where you're from, or the details of your question on that. That allows us to ensure that we have complete transparency for the records about who was here, who asked questions, and what the question was about. And also remind you that the meeting is being recorded and live streamed. So we have complete courtesy for one another in that regard. So remind folks. Yeah, good. I've done it all. That's great. That's a first. That's good. So we do have some questions that we've received on notice. We do encourage folks, whether they are attending or not, that lodging questions via email is useful. That allows the General Manager to have those couple of hours on a Monday afternoon to collate the best possible information she can provide us for a response. So we will do those ones first with Sandra before we move to the verbal ones from the floor. So Sandra, if you will.
Okay, on the first one I've got is from Mr. Tony Adams, who submitted 2 questions. The first question is, we would like to know what, if any, pensioner housing is available or planned for Penguin. So the response is that the Central Coast Council has 77 8-person home units, with 25 of those situated in Penguin. I'm aware that the Homes Tasmania, which is the state government, has a number of units in Penguin as well, and are also looking at more affordable housing within the near future. Question 2, the development progress of the AFL grounds. The response to that is that the council is currently negotiating with the state government on allowing the former Penguin recreation ground land to be used for housing development with a mix of 1, 2 and 3 bedroom homes, and we are awaiting the outcome of these negotiations. Public consultation has already been undertaken with the community, and the community will have further input when the council applies for the rezoning of the land. So that's that one.
Yes.
Now the next 2 questions are from Mr. James Smith at Leith. Now we only received these on Wednesday, and we've been out of the office for a lot of the next 3 days. So the responses aren't here at this moment, but I need to read out. So the first one is, how many right to information application decision documents and right to information internal review decision documents did the Central Coast Council issue in the calendar year 2021 and the calendar year 2022? And what was the date of each submission document? Each decision document, sorry. The second question was, how many right to information application decision documents and right to information internal review decision documents issued by the Central Coast Council in the calendar year 2021 and the calendar year 2022 contain the appeal rights as required pursuant to section 22 2C of the Right to Information Act 2009, and what were the dates of each decision document containing the appeal rights as required pursuant to section 22 2C of the Right to Information Act 2009. So the two questions have been taken on notice and a written response will be provided to Mr Smith and also recorded in the next council meeting minutes. Does he want to ask questions or?
We received some questions via email from Mr and Mrs Luce, but go with us. Did you want to ask those verbally or did you want us to? You're happy to? No, that's okay. So Sandra's prepared an answer there, so if you're happy for her to read them out and the responses. Yeah, no, that's perfect. Thank you.
What is going to be done about the positioning of traffic islands at Johnson Beach Preservation Drive, Oceanside Boulevard and Preservation Drive near Overall Street and the eastbound bus stop just before Creamery Road. It says that Johnson Beach, the island is positioned in such a way that if a bus stops at the designated bus stop, the rear of the bus is left out across Preservation Drive and the traffic island placed there and therefore is obstructing traffic. This leaves a dangerous situation where traffic only had one option to get around the bus by turning blind out around the back of the bus and the traffic island into any oncoming traffic on the wrong side of the road. At Oceanside Boulevard and Preservation Drive, the traffic island obstructs traffic turning into Oceanside Boulevard due to the fact that there is now a solid white line painted on the road surface across the entrance in front of Oceanside Boulevard and Preservation Drive, technically making it illegal to make a right-hand turn from Ocean Boulevard towards Penguin and also technically illegal to turn right from Preservation Drive into Oceanside Boulevard from the Burnie end, plus the fact that there are no line markings across Oceanside Boulevard to delineate the stop way boundary onto Preservation Drive, as the previous lines were painted over in black and never reinstated. At Preservation Drive and Overall Street, the traffic island is positioned in such a way that if a bus uses the bus stop at that location, then traffic is obstructed yet again and forced to do the same as Johnson Beach and manoeuvre blindly around the bus and the island into oncoming traffic on the wrong side of the road. Also, the stoppers placed past the end of the footpath in soft sand, leaving an almost impossible for the elderly or disabled to climb into the bus, even with the access ramp down, due to the steepness, as these ramps, when lowered to ground level, they are designed to be used in conjunction with a standard 8-inch high curb, and therefore this stop fails to meet the relevant legislation which is applicable to all bus stops, regardless of whether or not pedestrian facilities are located around the bus stop. And the bus stop on the eastbound side of Preservation Drive before Creamery Road has been placed in the wrong position at the rear of the pull-in area, with any bus using this stop having the entire rear of the bus left out in traffic, causing a traffic hazard. This stop needs to be moved to the eastern end of the pull-in to allow the bus to properly and safely stop for impending traffic. So the response to that is that the issues raised in regard to bus stops on Preservation Drive, near Creamery Road and Johnson Beach will be investigated with the design consultant and project manager for the Shared Pathway project. The stop near Overall Street will also be assessed for compliance and improvement. Turning across a single dividing line into a driveway or intersection is not an illegal manoeuvre, so that can happen. But in question 2 is, what is going to be done about the worsening sanitary and environmental problem situation with free campus at Midway Point? We have 2 tents pitched in the bush on the western end of Midway Point 2 small commercial vans and 1 large pony cart there for several months, all believed to be homeless. The bushes in the surrounding area in the long grass is being used as a toilet by not only the homeless but other campers. The stench from the bushes is foul, to say the least, and there are many pieces of used soiled toilet paper just thrown into the ground where these 3 campers just squat and do their business, which has been witnessed by Sulphur Creek and Preservation Bay residents. The owner of the coach has been seen on social media bragging about how he been camping there since November, and how the council has been powerless to move on due to the fact that it is Crown land. If the situation isn't resolved very soon, we will have hepatitis, gastroenteritis, Giardia infections, and since this area is the main access to the beach for families, it places the local children at risk as they will inevitably pick something up that they were not supposed to and become infected. So the response is that the council is currently negotiating with the Department of State Growth to take over a lease on this land so that it can be managed appropriately. The council is also in the process of developing a bylaw which will give us teeth to move people on who are using the land inappropriately. I can assure you that the council is taking this issue seriously, and once the land is within council management, we will be looking at putting in a development application for use of this land as a camping site. This process will also allow the community to have a say as to whether they would like the area to be used for motorhome camping. The council, along with you, are disappointed with the misuse of this area by some and are keenly trying to address this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm aware that that's an issue for many of you that were here tonight that had similar types of questions. So Sandra's response is, tries to make that response as succinct as possible, but happy to repeat that if people need to hear about what that response was. Thank you for that, Sandra. So I open the floor to questions. In the name of transparency and record keeping, we just ask that you state your name and where you're from. Where you're from doesn't need to be a street address. It can just be Penguin or Sulphur Creek or wherever. And if we can answer your question tonight, we will. If not, we will undertake to get back to you as soon as possible, and we'll capture some contact details from you in order to do that. So, is there anyone that would like to start? Ben?
Yeah, my name's Ben Clark.
Could I ask you to stand for the recording? That's okay. Thank you so much.
I'm a local resident Penguin. Been here forever, basically. So, my main concern obviously is the Midway Beach area. I'm an avid surfer and always at the beach with my son. So my 2 questions are: when Crown land is taken over by council, what is the timeline for all this to occur, and what will be the plan for the area when it is actually open again? So, being whether it's going to be a permanent setup or we're going to go back to this unmonitored area, because it's just absolutely disgusting down there. I have a ute full of rubbish which I'm willing to show you right now.
Thanks,
I
Ben.
picked up on Saturday.
Thank you, and thank you for the work that yourself and others do in relation to cleaning up the mess of others. The staff and you, Sandra. So the question was about: do we have some sense of a timeline, a when, and then do we have? Given that we haven't yet had that conversation with the Crown, do you have a sense of what a return to sensible monitored camping might be?
We're still negotiating with the Department of State Growth. We have advised them that we'd like this dealt with as soon as possible, so they know the urgency of it. So I'm hoping that it won't be too long. Once that's happened, I feel to have my compliance officers go in and then talk to people who shouldn't be there or aren't acting appropriately in those places. But until we get some tenure of some description over the land, we can't do that at the moment.
Thank you. And obviously, as you've said before, it was the intent for us to pursue a development application. And the reason that we would do that is that then requires us to go out for public consultation, so that there is that opportunity for everybody to have their input as to the use and the appropriate use of that site. So that's the best mechanism we can use to make sure that we hear the voices of everybody in relation to its future use. Good.
May I also just say, Mayor, that as well as that, we're in the process of doing up a bylaw, which will give the council to say that after 2 days you have to move on, or we can manage it and we have rules in place that we can put into place. But until we get that bylaw done, we rely on the compliance officers to go in and talk to people and goodwill. So we've got to go through that bylaw. It's required that we have to go through Crown Law in Hobart as well to get that happening. But we've already started work on that so that we're so we can start it now, not in 4 months' time, etc.
We do understand the urgency from a variety of factors. Good, thank you. Next, yes. Please stand if you would.
My question is to do with the crossover. I did notice that there were a lot of people, high-vis people out there the other day looking, but they're in very bad repair now. The one at Midway Beach, the one up the top end of Midway Beach, the one opposite Creamy Road, and the one up the top of Midway are in pretty bad repair at the moment. The second one I'd like to talk about is the one down at Johnson's Beach. There's a bunch of us out there have the 3-wheeler trucks. So when you get down to Johnson's Beach, it's darned impossible to get your bike around. So, and also if you were a disabled person in a gopher, whatever you'd like to call them, they would have the same properties. They just need shortening a bit the pieces that jut out so you can get around. Otherwise, you end up on the road in front of traffic.
Thank you. No, so just make sure that I heard it properly. We are talking about those official crossing points where we cross over the roadway line. That's Tas Road crossing. Sorry, what was your name?
Faye Jones.
Thank you, Faye. Paul, would you like to talk to us about? Would you mind standing so that we can catch your voice and able to speak up? Thank you. The complexities of Tas Road crossings.
Tas Road crossings are being looked at, that we're looking at in an order based on priority. Trying to think of what you actually mentioned now. The one at what we call the surge steps on the western end of Midway Point. We've just got the design last week on a new ramp crossing. So as you go over the railway line, you'll be ramp down the beach rather than those small steps that are there at the moment. So that's to make it disability compliant. And so it'll be really good access from that beach that will be done as part of the pathway project. Johnson's Beach, we're talking about today is set up, I think, as you go across Johnson's Beach road. The railway just near that. We'll need to have a look at that one because there are certain requirements we need to make in relation to the railway crossing standards, but that one is probably an old standard and the new standard allows more for those mobility vehicles, whereas the old standard was a lot tighter. So I just need to have a look at that and understand what it complies with and what we need to do to make it better. But it was meant to be upgraded as part of this project if it needed it, but I'm not sure that it was recognised that it was needed, so it's really important for attention.
What sort of a timeline are we looking at here? Years, months?
For the midway point crossing, that's part of the project that we've got at the moment. So that's during the next 12 months, 6 months to 12 months, just depending on availability of contractors effectively and getting the relevant rail commission. The other one is that we're in the next few months, we will look at that Johnson Speech one as well, just to understand what needs to be done there.
Thanks for saying, I know that's something that was raised with me, with someone that was on a mobility. And standards don't often keep up with what it is that we actually do. So thank you for raising those. Anything further? Yes.
Thank you, yes.
Thanks, Ray.
With the Midway Beach, with the walking track, is that council control?
So the section of the shared pathway that's going past Midway Beach?
Yeah.
Yes?
Because at the moment, when they've got people there, like, oh, there's a bloke goes there with canoes or surfboards, they remove the post, they back in there, leave the post out. It's not locked. So there's always a big 6-inch hole left in the walkway.
Okay, and so that post is removed whilst they're surfing? So it's removed while they're in there accessing the beach, and then is it getting put back when they leave, when they take their vehicle back? No, okay, so that's, therein lies the risk, I suppose, with the hole in the pathway. That's your concern, the risk of covered. Yeah, okay. So, Paul, is that section under our management yet, or still with the Great Coast Authority?
Well, let me clarify, is that the access on the western end of the Midway Point area where the sewer station is?
So, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the first all I need.
So the new railway crossing will actually.
No, not the crossing, I think he's talking about further back up this way.
It's
Where
within,
the plastic is current. There usually is the bollards there.
there's three defined bollards across the track.
Yeah.
And they'll be in them out. But normally we can see the one out. Okay. Because there's nothing blocked in there. Gain access.
That's more. So much simple, they're two different ones.
All right, sorry, Craig, can I ask you to stand just so we can hear you again, and it is your question, sorry, so just to be clear, I'm just trying to help Paul get a mental picture of where you are. Yes, yeah,
And the free camping is there in Midway. Just to the western side of that, there was 3 treated ones. And they were just wiggling down and throwing on the back.
So at the moment, we'll need to look at that, but in the future, when the new crossing is built in that area, the crossing will actually come out to where those bollards are, and we can go across without needing to go past the bollards.
You're at the bottom end of it, it's at this top end, because it's where they're taking them out, that's back in the cars.
I understand that, but where that is, near where the parking area is, where the campers are.
Yeah.
Where those bollards are, that's where you cross the railway line in the future.
Yeah.
So you won't actually need to go past the bollards, you'll actually cross the railway there, and then once you get to the other side of the railway, you'll then run down to the beach, back following the rail onto the beach.
Yep.
But I will address the issue as it stands at the moment, because that feels unlocked away before that's built, so I just need to understand what bollards they're using and make sure that we have everything running in place.
Yeah.
thanks, Craig, other questions, you might have just stand, please, so, yes, Craig,
Roger there, Salford Creek.
thanks, Roger.
The bollards that you're talking about, they were placed with metal ones, but they never put padlocks on them. And we've had cars driving up and down the Gorman track. Yeah. So the bollards are gone, there's cars driving up and down the Gorman track, which I don't know what you can do, but yeah, and the bollards were never locked in. There was room for the padlock, and never put padlocks on, so what can happen?
Paul, do you have a thought about that, please? Was there an intent to padlock them, or were they not padlocked for another reason that we're?
I understand it's when you padlock.
They're gone, they're gone down.
Good, now we know something we didn't know before. Thank you, Roger, that's fabulous. Somebody else? Yes, in the front there. Thank you. Your name?
My name is Kathleen Fraser. I live south of the Dial Road Complex at Dial Road.
I wonder if the council has considered placing speed humps on Dale Road to the south. It's a 50 km/h limit. And every day, without exception, we pick up dead bodies or native wildlife in that section. And I know the golf course is there, etc. But yeah, it is a 50 km/h limit, and I'm aware that very few people keep to that limit, so it might not be the council's job. However, speed humps sound a bit drastic. So I've noticed lately that you've been using the signage, the electronic signage. And we've been in different places in Tassie where they have the signage up saying beware of wildlife from dusk to dawn.
Yes.
It's not just about the wildlife. They're breaking the law, but the wildlife are suffering. If you're doing 50 km/h, you won't kill a wallaby. But they're not doing 50 km/h, and the bodies are lying legs up both sides of the road, and we lift them off. Yeah. Thank you.
No, thank you, and thank you for your attention, your care and attention for the wildlife. You're talking about on past the turn off to
Here.
Recreation Drive, not Recreation Drive, it's Sports Complex Ave.
Yeah. To the end of the city limit, it's 50 km.
Thank you. Paul, your thoughts on what could be done there to encourage better behaviour?
I guess the first one is that the variable message sign, the illuminated sign, is how we're approaching most of those wildlife issues at the moment. So where people let us know that there is an issue, we're using that board intermittently. So we've got a program of locations that we're starting to put it up for, and we feel that it's probably more relevant or will have more impact if it's at certain times. Then you leave it for say 2 weeks or 4 weeks, and then take it away, put it somewhere else, then it comes back. So if it's just a permanent sign, people get used to the sign being there. So we're trying to do something a little bit different with that sign now to put it right in front of people. So that's the process for that. Speeding in a 50 km/h zone is probably more a police issue than a council issue. Reporting with the said, they'll ask you the same thing, we ask you the same thing. We can conduct some traffic counts there to understand the nature of the speeding, to see whether they're doing 55 or whether they're doing 70. So I'll put that on our list for checking at some stage, but we do have a long list of roads to check, so that I will put it on the list for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions, please? Yes. Lenny.
My name's Lucy, I'm from Salisbury Roots. My concern, and I understand everyone's concerned about the midway point, and I acknowledge that the mess that it should. My concern is, where are we going to put the homeless people in Penguin? And is there any idea or any reason why the rehab centre in Salt Creek has been empty for 2 years, where it could be used for something else? The Five Sky, got no answers, but just my concern for the homeless.
Yeah, no, thank you, and thank you for your care. Certainly, we know with Midway Point, perhaps the reason that it doesn't function the way that it used to is that there's been lots of changes in circumstances. We know that people have moved there to live. We know that there is an issue with housing. Some people abuse it, but there are certainly elements of people that have been there long term that have nowhere else to go. And then, as you're all fully aware, there are people that are living there in tents. Some may have somewhere else to go, some definitely do not. So whatever decision we make about Midway Point will absolutely have some of those things front of mind. How do we ensure that those people are connected with the services that can help them best, and to do the very best that we can. In relation to Serenity, I always forget its name, Sandra always remembers. So Serenity House was the drug rehabilitation property there in Sulphur Creek. When we met with Minister Barnett last week or the week before, 2 weeks ago, in relation to housing and the homelessness issue that we're facing and so forth, We asked him to come back to us with advice about who actually owns it. We understand that the state owns it and that perhaps it was on lease to City Mission. We asked him for clarification of that, and we reminded him that there was a facility sitting there empty that may well be of use to either an organisation or individuals or something, because in our opinion, it is a wasted asset. He can't be responsible for remembering everything, but he certainly wasn't aware of that, and he certainly now is. And he had he gave us our undertaking that he would investigate and come back to us. So wouldn't it be lovely if we could somehow put people with accommodation? That is certainly our aspiration. Yeah, so, you know, hopefully that tells you where we're at with both of those things, and thank you for your concern. Yes, Mr. Mads.
Neil Mads, Penguin. I have 4 questions, and I've asked 2. The other, I'd like a response later on if I could, please. The dog park in here in Penguin. I often have 2 dog parks, one for smaller dogs, one for larger dogs. What I'm asking, is it possible to actually divide the park into 2? Given that, perhaps you need to look at the dividing fence could be perhaps higher than the perimeter ones, because of larger dogs could easily jump it. But at the moment, when you've got 3 or 4 large dogs up there, it's just not safe to take a smaller dog along.
Understood, been there, done that, and I think that's what Councillor Hiscott was referring to when we accepted the motion in the meeting about looking at the airlock, I call it, gateway, about how other improvements can be made for the Penguin location. So I'm suggesting that is front of mind already for people. Thank you for your suggestion. Yes.
Now, the other one is to do with Max Perry Gardens, and whilst there's been a garden already set out really for planting, I believe you've got the banks. And I also understand there'll be a new garden from the staircase leading down from the main road to the west. There'll be another garden planted into there. What's the outcome for the far eastern side of Max Perry Gardens? At the moment, it's just dead wood, and it's certainly not in the railway zone.
So just to be clear, are we talking about the pedestrian crossing across the railway line near Sunrise? Seaside, thank you so much. Are we talking east of there?
One back towards town.
Thank you. Okay, good. Paul, can you help us with? Sorry, I know it's not your portfolio there.
The gardens up between the road and the railway, right up next to the road, and to be supplemented as well. So the idea is that they are planted, not just the garden down water area, but the ones at the top, to provide that natural barrier between the road and the rail. So that will be part of that process as we go forward to actually plant down all those existing dead pieces of that garden property.
My question is actually not so much on the roadside, but down on the grass side. West of the main staircase that goes across down to the garden. I'm under the impression that the gardens will go all the way along the fence line that's been put up, and to the east, from where council have already put in the proposed garden. So we've got the 10 park there ready to plant. From where that garden stops down to the far end of the pathway, what happens there?
Well, that's all I need to back that I've noticed it and exactly what we're doing in the same areas.
Isn't that part of the whole plan though?
As far as I know it is, but I'm just need to confirm what we're actually doing, and that's what we wanted to know, is that will be part of that community group that's putting together to look at that whole 3 landscaping. But I'll need to confirm exactly what it's, that's what we do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Neil, yes, thank you.
During my employee, was fine. I have received the heritage places data sheet. Found many areas with it. My question to the council is, will it adopt a opt-out of the heritage place?
Thank you, Jeremiah. I appreciate your time recently on the phone. Question for the Director of Community Services. Are you able to help us with that, Darryl, please?
Thank you, Mayor. I think I can only share what I've shared at the information sessions at this stage and in my meetings with the gentlemen. So most people, a lot of people would be aware that council has commissioned a heritage study. That's the first step in a process of considering whether or not we'll proceed down the track of incorporating the local historic heritage code into our local banking scheme, if you like. So the decision to undertake that study was made in response to a lot of people saying to council, had all these beautiful buildings stopped down in our community. Why can't council do anything about it? So we've now done the study. Council is yet to consider whether or not it will adopt some, none, or all of the consultants' recommendations. So to answer your question specifically, I'm sure that one of the things that councillors will consider in detail is whether we're able to move forward with some of the recommended listings and not others. So that will be considered, but I think a decision on whether or not to move forward with some or none or all of the recommendations will be made in the second half of this year. And that will be made based on consideration of the feedback that we've received at the information session and for our one-on-one session as well.
Thank you. So no decision being made on the cultural heritage issue in the immediate future. We've got some work to do first, and you will be privy to that. Other questions? I'm mindful that we've expired our 30 minutes, but I'm happy to keep going for people that haven't yet asked a question. There's a hand down the back. Yes, thank you.
Howard, it's on the creek. It's about the way thank you. I do recommend that on the street. It's not right. It's very unlikely. I personally don't take the path anymore. And some of the things we've seen, I've been left just going answer the fence across and no one will be back. So I'm just wondering if there's an avenue where we can streamline any issues or complaints. So we've got some data when it comes to living at it, when you've got something to get control of it.
Thank you. Great question. Is there somewhere they can streamline what it is that we're seeing and experiencing so we can capture some data that might be useful for whoever's making the decision going forward, Sandra?
We'd be happy if you sent in anything through our admin at Central Coast email. Then we can put that into a file that we will look at as we go through that process. And we should be able to add photos to the email that they received in as well.
Thank you. Great question. Mr. Lucas, did you have a supplementary question? Happy to take one from you.
Thank you. I have a supplementary question regarding the horses that are running up and down the beach outside in front of Saltman Creek down there while kids are playing in the insert. There is a horse float that's brought down, carries up to 6 horses, which he runs his horses, obviously he's a racing enthusiast of some kind, up and down the beach while kids are playing. So this represents a very dangerous situation where kids or children sooner or later are going to be trampled by these horses. These horses are not being walked up and down the beach, they're going in a fast ride to a slide gallop. I was wondering what the council can do about this situation since that Paul's Point doesn't park up down there. I believe that is under council jurisdiction.
Thank you so much, and hadn't seen it, but I was aware that that's where that exercising of the horses was taking place. So exercising horses on Paul's Point Beach, which we have declared is an environmentally sensitive zone. What is our head of power there, Sandra?
Suggest I take that on notice and I'll get back to you on that.
That's right.
Pardon?
Do you have my email?
Yes, I'd like you to write a question and your information on one of those sheets of paper. That goes for anyone who's asked a question So we've got that and we've got, all your details and the questions that you've asked.
Is there a particular time of the day when the vehicle might be there?
Afternoons. Morning, and there's two lots coming, they're breakfast and pole over here, oh.
No, that's fine, thanks, yeah, no, thank you for bringing it to attention. Any final questions from anyone that hasn't asked a question? Yes, sir, down the back.
Yeah, hi, I'm Kane Down and I live at 206 Preservation Drive, which is literally across the road from this camping thing, and I'll keep it quick, but my suggestion is, I think we need to look at barricading the grassed area off, making it asphalt with angle parking, because there's two issues I've got, and I've got none against people staying there, so I reckon it's fantastic having a caravan of my own, but I think at the moment, when the beach is really busy, I literally nearly got T-bone coming out of my driveway because of the cars that are now parking along the front of our houses to go to the beach, because they're still using access, which is fine, but it becomes a danger because I can't get out. I've got 3 young boys, we go over the road to ride our bikes.
You got a question in there for me, Kane?
Yeah, I was just hoping that you could do something, or look at doing something for the parking, so with a toilet block.
And this is Midway Beach.
Yeah, so it's not better.
Yeah, all right. So as we said, all being well, we managed to get make an arrangement with the Crown, so we have a lease over that area. Then we can, as Sandra said, we've already started doing work on a development application. We're not going to wait for the Crown to say yay or nay. We've already started doing the work on the development application, so we can, sorry, and the bylaw, so we can implement them quickly. And the reason that we do that is so that we can collect your feedback and suggestions exactly as you've indicated there, and so you have an opportunity to share your specific concerns of what you're seeing, so that we can help, so we can use that information to help us make our determination. So we will have that on our social media. We will have that in our newsletter. You'll hear about it through your networks, no doubt. And that's your opportunity to say, this is what I think we should do.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, good. A question from, yes, sir.
Harold Clark is my name and live just up the road.
Thanks, Darryl.
I live opposite Johnson's Beach. When you give us an answer, can you please speak a bit louder? There are a few deaf people here. First question is, in late 2022, the council directed part of a small shed on Johnson's Beach. Up till now, there's been no work done on it. Is it a shed or is it a electric barbecue? If it is, when's it going to be finished and what is the total cost?
Thank you, Mr. Barker. So you're referring to the barbecue shelter. I'm not sure exactly where we are at in relation to its completion. Let's find that out. Paul, are you able to help? No, it was not able to help. Not tonight. Oh. So we might have to get back to you. So the questions were, when is it likely to be completed?
And cost. Yes.
And the total cost of the.
No.
No.
Then the question is, around about 5 years ago, two very competent ladies came to the mainland to look at the future of the old football ground. They had public meetings and walks around the oval, looked at it. They provided a plan for the council. What has happened with the plan? What does the council taken out of that plan, and what is the total cost of their visit?
Yes, good. So we all know that there's been two rounds of consultation in relation to what we should do with it. So we started the process, and as you say, two very nice ladies came to help us guide that work. In between, we had a bunch of stuff, didn't we? We had COVID, and we had a bunch of federal money which was given to us to do the foreshore to protect it from erosion. So that simply meant that you cannot do everything. So we had to park the work that was being done on the recreation ground because you can't do everything. So time elapsed in the blink of an eye. How many years? 4? The audience here knows better than me. 5. Thank you, Warren. And so by the time we came back to look at it, we felt compelled to go out and talk to the community again because things had changed. We had different people living in and around the town and in the region. We didn't feel that using designs or ideas or conversations that had happened 5 years before was the appropriate thing to do. So in the last 12 months, you've had a couple of very nice men that have come and facilitated some of that conversation down at the railway station and through different means. We are now at the point where we have some concept drawings. The oval belongs to, effectively, it belongs to the state. And it's, so two things, it belongs to the state, so we have to ask them about transferring it to the council on your behalf. And we would have to ask them, if we were to put residential development on it, we would have to ask it for it to be rezoned because it is currently zoned for recreational use. So you can't do those things without some idea of what your vision might look like. So we have developed concept drawings so that we can go to the state and say, this is what we think. What do you reckon? That's where the stage that we're at. So we should have a meeting with Minister Yench. Well, we're patient with Minister Yench, but in the next couple of weeks is what I've been told. So I hope that explains why we've had to have two cracks at it. I think that's reasonable. Council decided that was reasonable. The second part of your second question, Daryl, was the cost.
Yeah.
So that is specifically the cost of the two nice ladies that came the first time, or the cost of the two nice guys that came the second time, or both?
The two ladies.
Two ladies.
Cost of the first investigation.
Okay. We will have to take that as a question on notice, Daryl, and come back to you. So we just need, before you leave today, to capture the best contact details, though I suggest I could probably track you down if I needed to. Is there anything urgent, Mr. Barker, the other Mr. Barker? Go ahead, Warren. Big voice.
Question, I just wanted to tell the meeting that recently I've listed the recreation event as heritage listed for a park and public use. So that will take its course. I've got back from the heritage that they're very interested in it, and that will take precedence over anything.
I'll take it as a comment. Thank you so much. Yeah, good. No, thank you. Tony King.
Just wondering, in the meantime, with the Old Penguin football ground, would it be possible to open part of it for parking in the
Yeah.
I have very slow congestion at the moment, and it's available.
Thank you.
Parking is an issue around here.
Yeah.
That's fine, example, we just had someone, you don't have to car, but often you don't have to have a call.
Yep, no.
But parking is an issue around town, I think that it may be outdoors or.
Thank you. And it's been raised with us several times. As you know, we've done it on a few special occasions. We did it for the Penguin Christmas Parade. That was great to be able to park there for the recent fun run. But Sandra, can you share with the meeting or Paul, can you share with the meeting why we're not able to do that as a permanent temporary thing? Somebody want to touch on that? Zoning, isn't it? Daryl. Sorry, my apologies, wrong director.
Yes, thank you. I have money in front of me, but if my memory serves me correctly, I believe that the recreation zone doesn't allow permanent parking there. There's an occasional use in the exemption of the planning scheme that allows us to do it for special events, etc.
Zoning. It would require a rezoning, which is exactly what we're trying to do, to be able to do something with it. And apart from the special exemption. Well, I think we're coming to an end. The gentleman there in the khaki, if you could stand, thank you.
Hi, my name's Paul Setter. I live in Salt Creek.
Sorry, Paul didn't have my glasses on.
Two things. Firstly, and it's not something I have to bring to attention the speed limit. I don't know if it's been brought up here this evening or not. But most of us who live in Sulphur Creek or have been through there will have seen what's happened to one of the refuge islands. It's been completely flat. And the track there have been quite a few near misses, obviously, before that has happened. I think while the work that went on with the pathway. The speed limit was 60 kilometres from Penrith through to Howe. That seems to work quite well. Talking to a friend of mine, a local resident who's a policeman, he is concerned, and obviously they are, regarding the speed limit. And I don't know what people here would think, but I would have thought the limit should start from just before the surf club. Should be 60 kilometres, sorry, and extend to Howe. Wouldn't be a bad idea, particularly as we have seen with access to the beach now, people parking on the landward side and then crossing the road. It's become a dilemma. Also, with the traffic outside the highway halt, it's now a bottleneck effectively. And unfortunately, with the subdivision that's going in there now, it can only get worse. Certainly at the moment with larger vehicles moving in and out of that.
Thank you.
I don't mean to be critical, but it would have been nice if some thought had been given whereby traffic could only into that new subdivision coming from the east and then be linked up to the back of Oval Street and come out and make it a one way. I don't think perhaps now that that's going to happen, the lots have been sold, but it would have been nice. One more suggestion, if I may.
Which will be posed as a question, of course.
No, it's not. No, I'm trying to be constructive.
Yeah, no, that's okay. We just need.
In light of what I considered the somewhat one-dimensional approach that came with the pathway and the implementation of it, dare I say, wouldn't it be a good idea this time around to look at a master plan to extend from, say, Hall Point and at least to East Point of Preservation Bay? I think with the recent surf club carnival they had there for the juniors, the application of that area there for parking was brilliant. I think that opens a lot of potential for the future, for perhaps certainly for parking there for surf club events, but perhaps even for camping as well. And as a matter of interest, when we look at the whole area, you look at it from a point of view of a master plan. I use the pathway quite a lot. I ride up to the top of the hill between Penrith and Preservation Bay. It would be lovely if there were points there where people would stop, where there was, say, seats or whatever, or a lookout or whatever. If there was a master plan, perhaps we could consider a lot of those kind of things.
Good.
And do it once and do it well.
Do it properly. Thank you. Appreciate that. So if I'm hearing you correctly, then it's not the first time clearly that the issue of the speed limit has been raised with us. It was raised back with the public meeting that we had at the surf club with the Cradle Coast Authority and Tasrail that day. So we're wanting to know what's happening with the review of the speed limit, because I know that it is on the engineer's agenda, and the possibility of a master plan for that area to capture those. Oh.
The speed limit, you would have noticed that there are encounters on the road at the moment in Preservation Drive. That's to give us an understanding of what the vehicles are currently travelling at. And that's part of the process that we need to go through to actually make the application and safeguard all the speed limit impacted if required. So we're just running through that process at the moment to follow that through, with the likely recommendation being for a 60 km/h going in the speed limit.
And I think the master plan idea perhaps has some merit. I can see some councillors nodding around the table. So perhaps that is something that we can talk about as part of our annual plan as we progress our actions for next year. What where the value is in doing that and what that might look like. I feel like we've probably answered most of your questions. We've certainly exceeded the time. Sandy's going to say something.
Yes, I am. Everyone who has asked a question, please fill out the form. Please put your information on them as well as the question, so that we've got all that data and we can get that to you if we need to. Because we're required under legislation to have that information as part of the process. So thank you.
So we'll allow a few minutes for people to do that. Are you happy for them to take a form, fill it in and return it to us, or what would be the best place to facilitate those that haven't yet? Is there anyone that's asked a question tonight that hasn't had a form to fill in? Yeah, okay, I would like to do that.
We'll give them a couple of minutes to fill out that form, and then,
Are there enough things and enough pens?
I've got a pencil.
Councillors, thank you for adjournment. I'll ask for an adjournment of the meeting for 5 minutes until 7:15 to allow vote to that information. I have nobody to do. Councillor Hisco, say to the council. Thank you.
When you go there, if you want.
But reminding of the first one.
Cancel for a second. So
Can. Time for a stiff scotch. It is. How are you, my friend? Look after yourself. Scotch. See you, man. See you, Garth.
No, they need one.
No painting. Thank you for bringing council meeting to Pegman. However responsible. Obviously, there's some interest. Yes.
We'll be back in September.
This year.
For all the meetings.
Good on, thank you.
Yes. Nice to have so many people here interested, isn't it?
It's all, yeah, they're interested all on the same topic, isn't it?
Yeah. And fair enough too. I don't think I'll get my backyard either.
Oh,
It's understandable, isn't it?
shocking. Bureaucracy can get in the road
Oh,
and doing something.
so much frustration from everybody.
It's lost a fortune in time.
Yep.
People's energy.
It's why you still have people that can make the decisions to make it quickly, don't you?
Especially when it stands in front of you.
Yes.
If they had a plan for it, fair enough, but they won't have any
Oh, no.
transport plans.
So, and that's the problem, you know, local government gets spreadsheets, but we don't get that tax people that can.
I'll go over it to one evening. I've done an explanation, but I'll still fill it in.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Can I go on
New members, residents.
South
Rhodes.
Lovely to meet you.
Just settle in.
Gary Carpenter.
Gary,
Good to meet you.
Hope you're enjoying it.
Tasmanian wilderness.
What, that's all right?
Tasmanian wilderness, Tassie Tiger logo on it. Polo top. Head off and dust, get 'em in.
Yes.
Yeah, they would do, they stay at 9 o'clock. City front of the valley, that was in the car right here, to the finance roles.
Yeah, that's right. No difference.
Not much in the car.
No.
And they can come to meetings every month if they want.
Yeah. That's it, not far. I wonder why, yeah, why they waited.
If you round it up, probably, which is not a thing.
Yeah.
Can't turn around.
So, Casey. Thanks for going. Thank you. Hugh. Absolutely.
I'm well, thank you, Carol. How are you?
If you're informed,
No, but I will.
do you mind taking?
And thank you very much, Monsieur. Much appreciated. Thank you.
See you.
We want to know. Right.
Thanks for passing that. Yes, I was thought of that on the list. It's really that someone said that we see him playing polo with the bench. It's running around in there. Yeah, not to mention the penalties and everything else. Which we all know down there how many people were killed by the railway contractors down there when they replaced the ballast. They just dumped the ballast for the bench. I did ask that once. I used to go to Diana at 6 o'clock in the morning. Diana down there. Discount pound. You don't see them. Matt Black against Matt Black. You don't see them. Carry on.
Yeah. Are there more questions over there? What's that? There might be more questions over there now. Now they're writing them all out.
Sorry to interrupt, just so you're aware, we are still live streaming. Yeah.
That's
Doesn't stop before it's live. What's the question? Thank you, Paul. Good night.
Thank you. All right.
Councillors, we will recommence to item 11.1, which is the meeting closed to the public. Could I have somebody move the suggested resolution? Councillor Tipper, seconded. Councillor Beresford. Go on speaking slowly. Councillor Beresford thought it was because I forgot his name. It wasn't. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Declared carried. Happy